Hello everyone. Before I get started on this video, this is not an instructional video. This is just a video on an installation that I'm doing on my travel trailer. I'd be installing these Timbren Axel-Less Suspension Kit on my travel trailer. And initially I just wanted to find an independent suspension system for the trailer. And I found these, couldn't find any information about them anywhere online. Well, there's some information, but most of them are on overland trailers and not on travel trailers. So I have a single axle travel trailer that I'm going to be installing these on, and I'm going to just do a video of the process. But again, it's not an instructional video. This is just how I'm going to do the upgrade, and I'll show you why I'm doing what I'm doing, and some of the things I found on the stock trailer that I wasn't happy about. And I'm hopeful that by doing this upgrade, I'm actually going to reinforce the structure, because as most of you know, that trailers are built incredibly poorly when it comes to the undercarriage, the suspension, the brakes, everything. I don't know many trailers that are built very well. And when I started taking this trailer apart, I realized that the suspension on it is it's crap. It's put together really poorly. I don't think it's structurally done very well, so I'll be going through what I'm doing to reinforce it and overall make it better. So I hope you enjoy the video. Yeah, we'll just go through the process now. So the trailer that I'm working on, it's a Keystone Bullet Crossfire. It's the 1850 rear bath, 1850RB. And so when I'm towing it, I noticed how bouncy the trailer was, and that was initially what got me to start looking at maybe doing an independent suspension. So I started researching. I couldn't find much information or products out there other than the Timbren system, but there was just not a lot of information on retrofitting it to a travel trailer. It's more on the overland trailers. So this one here, once I started digging into it, I realized how just ghetto this system is. You can see underneath, the whole trailer is just hinging on these tiny little welds and that little plate, and it's not even on there very square. So you can see how just not very well built. So this whole system, it's just not very well built. There's more detail into how this is all put together that I can get into, but essentially this is not a box frame. This is just a vertical piece, and it comes up at the top like this, and on the bottom it does the same. It's the opposite, so it's like a Z. So what they're doing with this little offset plate is they're distributing the load so that it runs just on the center plate. And if you look again at this view, it's just really janky, not real confidence inspiring. So that's what the whole trailer is built on and riding on, and these leaf springs just make it really bouncy. And the other part that I found is that this axle, it's a 4,400 pound axle, which the trailer dry weight is 4,000 pounds. Granted, 10% of that's on the tongue, but by the time you put the water in it, you're already at the load capacity for that particular axle. And so the Timbren system that I bought, that's a 5,200 pound axle rating. So I'm hoping once this is all rebuilt that I'll get a better ride quality, and then structurally this will be a little bit cleaner. So I drew the system up in CAD. This is how I got all my final dimensions. This represents the wheel, and that's the side view. So the red is basically what I added. The part that took me a minute to understand was the frame is a Z. That part there is the frame. So the original design, what they were trying to do with these pieces here, if you can see my arrow, is they're trying to get the load to be on the center of the Z. So basically what I did when I added these red parts was do the same thing, get all of the load centered on the frame. So the frame is not a box frame. So if you're ever going to install these yourself, just make sure you understand how your frame works. But this is basically how I figured it out and got all my clearances. And spacing and shims figured out. So my plan is going to be to cut this bracket off here, but preserve this piece. Same back here, I'm going to cut this bracket off of here, preserve this piece, because this is what they're using to distribute the load on the current axle. And then I'm fabricating a piece that goes, that's going to sit up against here, that's going to give me the proper spacing to get the center of my wheel at the correct height. So I'm actually going to be able to make the trailer sit about an inch lower, and then I'm going to actually get about an inch more width, just for stability, because that's how the Axel-Less suspension comes. So I'm going to lower the axle, get this out, and start cutting these things off, and then we'll weld on the new piece that I'm fabricating right now. So the Timbren has a cradle built into it. So what I did is I made these cradle pieces that have the bolts line up. There's actually 2 additional bolts here. These bolts will be welded to this plate and hidden inside this piece, which is going to be welded on top. So it's going to essentially, this part and this part are going to become one. This piece is going to get welded to the frame on the trailer. And like I mentioned, this height, the overall buildup of height, is going to give me the clearance I need, for the suspension travel, but I also get to lower the trailer about an inch, and then go. I get to play with the width. I'm opting to go a little bit wider on the trailer width. Structurally, it won't matter. It'll give you a little more stability. So these are the plates. I'm going to go ahead and finish fabricating these, weld this to here. And then eventually there's going to be vertical pieces between the bolts that mount to the existing frame on the trailer. We'll tie it all together, so it has a lot more stability. And then there's also, on the Timbren suspension, there's this 2x3 hole that's here that will have a bar, a 2x3 box tubing, which I already have here painted. That'll go between the two, and that helps with any kind of lateral movement. And keeps everything parallel. So the mounting brackets are done. So this is the plate. This plate is what the suspension will bolt to. I put some hidden nuts inside there. And then this plate is what gives me the height I need, and then this is what will weld to the frame on the trailer. So that's essentially how it sits in the cradle. And then I had to put a shim here because there's a low spot that I had to put a shim for. So that's the plate that I'll go ahead and start mounting up in the trailer. So I just ground off the leaf springs. You can see this is the only welds that were holding the springs on, the leaf springs. So pretty sure what I'm putting on is going to be a lot burlier than that. I'm going to leave these plates because they distribute the load onto here, and I'm actually going to weld my new plate to here. That's why I needed the shim, because there's a step down right here. So I'm going to clean this up and then start putting the new brackets on. Okay, so here's the finished bracket installed. So I added this vertical piece, so there's 3 of those verticals now. So there's a little bit more support than there was, and I actually had to move this one because it wasn't 90, so it was just poorly made. So I had to fix that one. But that's the plate the suspension will sit on now, and the other side is parallel within less than a 1/16 of an inch. So the good part is this frame is actually pretty square. So that was the one thing that's good, except for the little bracket. But parallel, they were pretty parallel. Okay, so I got it all bolted in there. Last thing I have to do is put in the 2 bolts that go here at the crossbar. It's all bolted up in there. And then I got to put the brakes on and wire the brakes and the wheels, and then I'm all set to go. So compared to what I started with, I think that's way better. So I got the trailer sitting on the tires now, so all the weight is on the suspension. The only thing that I'm concerned now about is the fact that I've got 2 inches left of clearance at the top of the wheel well, and then the rebound dampener has a gap right there. Well, these are 5,200 pound axle rating. The ones I took off were 4,400 pounds, so these should be plenty. Based on the math I did, right now it's compressed. Well, this total travel is 2 3/4 inches for this system. I have about 2 inches left up here, so based on my math, I have 1.09 inches left of upward travel. So I should have plenty of space here because I have about 2 inches there. But I'm wondering why this dampener has a gap in it. I would have expected it to sit a tad bit higher. But there's the system. I might have to do a follow-up once I actually drive it down the road, to do a follow-up to make sure I don't have any tire rub or anything. But according to my math and according to their specs, it should be right. So the trailer sits about an inch lower and the wheels are out about an inch, so overall it should be more stable. But I will have to probably do a follow-up video to see how it rides and make sure that I have the clearance that I need up there. The last thing I'm going to do is on the right side of the trailer. I'm just going to trim the sheet metal. Trailers are made so poorly. This cutout doesn't even match the left side, and it's cutting it pretty close to the tire here because I have the tire out an inch further. You can see the gap there is different, so I just gotta trim this out so there's no chance it'll rub. This stuff is just a facade. It doesn't really serve anything other than it makes it look better, I guess. So anyway, that's my install. I'll probably have to do a follow-up video of the entire system and see how it actually performs on the road. So anyway, like I said, this isn't an instructional video. This is just how I chose to do it. So obviously consult with a professional installation crew before you make any attempt to do this on your own. But that's what I essentially did on my trailer. So let me know if you have any questions or comments, and thanks for watching. Okay, well, I had this video all wrapped up, and then I was digging in deeper to why the suspension was completely bottomed out. So I contacted Timbren, they're based in Canada on the East Coast. It took a couple days to get things sorted, but they're not really sure why this is compressing all the way. Basically, the suspension, when I lowered the trailer, was completely bottomed out. They're not really sure why that's the case. So what they're doing, I took out the spring that was in here. So this is supposed to be 5,200 pound rated axle and spring. I sent them the information that's on the side of the spring that gives them the lot number and everything. It's the correct spring for 5,200 pounds. They're surprised that it bottoms out just by lowering the trailer. So what they're doing is they're actually going to send me the 7,000 pound spring. They're going to overnight it to me because I have a trip coming up and I need to have this trailer ready. So they're going to overnight the new spring tomorrow. So we're just going to go to the 7,000 pound spring, and we'll see if that helps. They do make this axle in a 7,000 pound, but they don't make a 4-inch drop, or it's a lift. It depends on which way you look at it, but they don't make the 4-inch lift version of the 7,000 pound, but the springs are compatible. So I talked to their engineer. They're going to send me this overnighted. I should be able to install this tomorrow. It's pretty easy to take out. You just take out the rebound dampener, which is right there, that's in the front. As soon as you take that out, unload the suspension, and the spring just basically pops out. It's held in with 2 pins. But I was pretty frustrated in the beginning, but Timbren stepped up, and I was able to talk to them on the phone and talk to the engineer. He said it's safe to drive as is, but I prefer not to have the suspension bottomed out before I even put anything in the trailer. But technically it is rated for 5,200 pounds. So we'll see. I'll install these tomorrow and see if I can get the thing to sit right. So we won't end the video just yet. Okay, so I've got the new springs in. These are the 7,000 pound rated spring. I'm not sure. My assessment is that even though these are the original version that I got of the spring was rated for a 5,200 pound axle, I'm not convinced that they are actually 5,200 pound for a travel trailer, maybe for an overland trailer, but they were too soft. And even though I replaced the 4,400 pound axle that was on the trailer, I don't think it's a one-to-one change. I do think that these springs need to be a little stiffer for it to work for that rating. But Timbren was awesome. I was on the phone with the engineer. He went ahead and suggested to the customer service group that they just overnight these 7,000 pound springs to me, so I have them installed. The trailer's sitting correctly now. It's sitting exactly where I had planned for it. I have the clearance here that I originally planned for and the width. So with the 7,000 pound spring, this is the 5,200 pound spring, and it's actually pretty soft. I know it gets stiffer when you compress it, but this is a durometer of 50, and then the new spring I couldn't even squeeze it. It was a durometer of 80, but this was the original. You can see it's a little bit spongier, a little softer. I'm not surprised that these bottomed out. The engineer wasn't sure if these were defective or not. I'm going to say that they were probably correct, that there was nothing wrong with these. I just think they were too soft. But they were awesome to help me and get it resolved pretty quickly. I'll have to do a follow-up video and just see how it rides. But everything looks good, everything's tight, got it all finished up. So I'll probably do a follow-up video just to do my assessment of how it works. I'm gonna be taking the trailer out here pretty soon, so we'll see how it goes. All right, if anybody has any questions or comments, just let me know. All right, thanks for watching.